The reason the Bills and the Chiefs are the number one game for me is you get an absolute back against the wall situation. Like, not like the vibe in Philly. It's like reality. If the Bills don't win this game, their chances go way down. They've got to win out, in my opinion. The Bills have a 15% chance to make the playoffs. Who would have thought that at this point in the year? And at the same time, I can honestly say the Bills are one of the best 5-10 teams in football. Like, if I based it on teams I'd least want to see in the playoffs, especially with the quarterback situation around the AFC and around the league. So this is a tough task for the Bills and for the Chiefs. It kind of feels like a back against the wall game too, because all of a sudden you're down a game in an AFC conference race that you know how important that home field advantage is in Kansas City. I contend that if Kansas City gets home field advantage, it's the best in football relative to the expectation of what this team's going to put out week to week. Being at home, Kansas City in the playoffs gives them as good a chance as anybody to go to the bowl.
Does this make any sense that while it would be just as easy for another team to go down to Miami and play, being at home for Miami
is huge? You're right. The other way
might be,
and Detroit
just
the same
important.
thing.
Yeah,
Detroit the same thing. Like, relative to the importance, or relative to your expectation of what this team might do, looking at the record and the whole thing, I think you bring up good points. Miami's been so good at home. You definitely don't want to see Tua out in cold weather. You definitely want to see Jared Goff outside. We're going to talk about that in a bit. But for the Chiefs, they're just so good at home, and that defense. And I know they lost a couple weeks ago to the Eagles at home. I know they lost to start the season against the Lions at home. But I also believe in this team figuring out down the stretch. And I think that the Bills, as I mentioned, in burn the ships mode, you got to be ready for the QB run game. I think that's huge for the Bills. Like, what are we saving Josh Allen for? I would pull out all the stops on the other side of the ball. You know you're going to get Von Miller this weekend. It was up to the Bills because no charges have been filed. And so Brandon Beane said, this guy's playing. And for the Bills, I think the number one thing you got going for you is actually two things. It's number one, the run game, which has actually been a formidable thing for them. And with Bolton out for a while now and unsure if he's going to play this week, the importance of Nick Bolton to that defense is huge. If he comes back, they're going to look fantastic. If he's not back, I'm worried about this Bills run game. So we'll see. I mean, since Bolton went down, they've allowed 6-2 a pop on the ground. That's bad. And that's way different than I thought they'd look like even with him down. So, like, the second thing is you've got Cook, who went down last week, the safety. And then you've got Edwards, who spelled him. He's out there with his big arm brace. He's on the wrong side of 30. When I asked Ryan Clark this week at Inside the NFL, can they overcome this? He said, yeah, I like this dude. Like, I think he can play. Now, you throw that fourth down play where he looked like he was lost trying to catch a pop fly. He looked like me at softball out there in right field, or Matt. Yeah. I didn't even use you, but it could have been any number of us. Not Aiden, because he was pretty good out there in the outfield, but that's how he looked in that one situation. I think he's going to be better than that, and I think that's the key. If you can run the football on these guys, things are going to open up for you. For the Chiefs, the offensive line issue. We've made a big deal about the drops. The drops have dissipated. Okay, it was really cold out there at Lambeau. The week before, they didn't have any drops. Maybe they had one. They might have had one the other night. But it wasn't a big consequential drop. Like, they'll get it right at wide receiver. I just don't want to see Sky Moore out there anymore. Like that play at the end of the game, whether it's on Patrick or on Sky Moore, what do you think? I mean, chances are there's at least a little bit where Sky Moore didn't run the right route and could have improved the timing and execution of that throw. And Sky Moore has been a guy who has not run great routes. So to me, Rashee Rice got to get the ball a lot. I mean, have you forgotten that Richie James exists? Tony, I know he's tantalizing with his talent, but he hasn't been dependable. You've got to start working guys in that you can trust. And to me, that starts with getting Sky Moore off the field. Brett Veach has failed Patrick Mahomes outside. That doesn't mean you should keep chasing this dragon with Sky Moore. You're in the middle of a playoff run. You got to put the people on the field that you can trust. And so I kind of wonder if they get into more 12 personnel. Like I had talked about maybe Zach Ertz as a Kansas City Chief, whoever it is, whether it's Noah Gray, who's already in the building, like morph into more of that power football team, because I think that's going to bode well for you. But the offensive line is my main concern. They're going to start Wanya Morris at left tackle. we said this, and Donovan Smith's hurt, but last week the red zone killed him. Kicking 2 field goals down there. A lot of people's like, what's wrong with the Chiefs offense? They've scored under 21 points 6-7 times this year. That's the most over Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes' tenure. But when you look at last week, they had 4 possessions between the start of the game and the end of the third quarter, real true possessions. And all of them went for a bunch of yards, went for a bunch of plays. They can do this, but they have to score touchdowns. And the offensive line failed them in the red zone. So I want to see the O-line play better, and that's a big key. And when you look at last week, week 6, when these two teams played, Kelsey had a great day. And it came down to the Bills just playing their stuff. They just didn't do anything to take them away. And I thought the Eagles, ironically, as bad as they've been in some situations defensively, did a good job getting the matchups and allocating the resources to where they could at least keep Kelsey down. This could be a big day if McDermott rolls out the same plan for Kelsey.
Buffalo 1-4 on the road this year. Patrick Mahomes has won 2/3 of his games this year, 95-1 passer rating, 10.4 yards per completion, 1 game-winning drive. Do you know who has those exact same statistics?
Jordan Love.
Tommy DeVito. New York.
And
Tommy D.
That's crazy. And they've been doing this with Jordan Love and Patrick Mahomes have the same stats and everything. And I totally understand why people think the Chiefs are wounded, but I keep saying this. Yes, the Chiefs are down, but so is the field. It's do the math. People asked me a couple weeks ago, are you worried about the Chiefs? I was not then. I'm a little bit more concerned now seeing the game the other night. But more than anything, I think they lost to a good football team, and I think they're figuring things out. And we got to stop holding them to a higher standard than the other teams in the AFC, because I think the Ravens could have trouble this weekend. The Jaguars just lost their starting quarterback, and the other team in the AFC that people are worried about is, of course, the Dolphins, who haven't beaten a single good team. So every team has a flaw in the AFC. All they've done is join the pack. So am I worried about them? Yeah, they've joined the pack of elite teams in the AFC, and they have as good a chance as anybody, but they need this game if they want to go on this run and secure home field advantage, which I think they can do.
And avoid a potentially dangerous opponent in the playoffs. You lose this game, and you could very likely be matched up with Buffalo round 1.
Crazy.
Yep.
It's in so many ways, these games are starting to be like playoff games. You talk about in the NBA, they have their play-in tournament and the whole thing. The play-in tournament starts right now or a week ago or 2 weeks ago in the NFL, and that's what I think makes the NFL such a bulletproof product, among other things that we discussed the other day.